Here we go. We're moving on to the very last passage, passage 5 in this first section of the SAT reading test. The passage 5, as we see, is a science, another science, but this is science with a table. So we are given a figure, one figure. So science with table. So as we have worked our way through the past 4 passages, I hope you've seen that the questions begin to look more and more familiar. There's always going to be some most nearly means. There are always going to be questions where you have to go back into the passage to support your previous answer. But there are questions that you know are going to be theme, as though it can be reasonably inferred that we know that's a theme question. And when it says, as stated in the passage, we know those are factual, and that if we get lost, we can always go back and point at the questions. So, I just want you to become more and more familiar with the language of the questions so that you just have no surprises and feel very confident. And I know that you will feel very confident after we finish this last section, the science with table section. It's hard to believe that we've made it through and we are about to finish our last section. I'm very proud of you. So just to look at very quickly, science with table seems pretty short. I'm going to have us do a quick glance at what the questions are. And as I mentioned, I think we've seen, I said there's 9 most nearly means on every SAT test, and I think we've seen 7. Do you think it's been 7? And I know that because there's a figure, as you remember from previously, there's going to be at least 1, 2, maybe 3 questions about that. So let's have a look at what some of the questions are. According to the passage, that's factual. The question in the second paragraph primarily serves to, that's theme. Most nearly means, don't look at the answers, we can't fall in love. A reference suggests. Choice prevents the best evidence. Oh, another most nearly means. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions about the passage itself. 2 most nearly means. They're just words and phrases in context. And then table 3. 1, 2, 3 questions about the table. So what did I say? There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions about the passage itself. We can get through this one quickly. So as a reminder, every time we're going to be reading for theme. Always reading for theme. As a reminder for science, just so that we don't have to spend a lot of time going back and looking in the text, whenever we find research design, we put a bracket around it. Whenever we find the scientist's findings, we put a bracket around it, and dates are circled just in case there happens to be a quick question about dates, and that way we can just reference back very, very quickly. Again, at this point in the test, the kids that are sitting around you in your test site are looking at the clock. I know for certain are looking at the clock. They're beginning to be very concerned about the amount of time they have left. You can sit tight knowing that there were 6, right? There were 6 questions based on the reading. 2, 3, 4. I'm wrong. There were 5 questions based on the reading. 2 most nearly means, and 3 about all. Read it one time, read it well so that you can determine the theme. And not only are you trying to determine the theme, find the research design, bracket findings, circle dates, mark the text so that you're predicting what the questions could potentially be. Are we ready to read? Always, always, always start here. Give yourself a little bit of background knowledge. Let them help you understand what it is that you are about to read. Let's start reading. All right, we did not read the figure, remember? We don't know why we would read it, so we're not going to spend any time looking at the figure at all until we know why we have to go back into the figure. So for theme, we found lots of research design, marked the text a lot. I did the findings. I didn't find any dates. I just found different studies. So essentially, we're just going with weed growth is greater when fields are plowed during the day. Exposing seeds to sunlight. And I want to add the word germination because it was one of the words that was repeated a lot. All right, let's start looking at the questions. Bring that in. According to the passage, exposure to light allows seeds to, I think we just wrote this for our theme, begin to develop, yeah. Absorb necessary nutrients? No. Withstand extreme temperature? No. Achieve no. They have to begin to develop to achieve maximum growth. The question in the second paragraph primarily serves to, we may just have to look back very quickly, lines 13 to 16. I'm seeing if we can narrow it down. Let's have a look. The question, line 13 to 16. Do the blade, I already had looked at that. Do the blades of a plow, which can reach more than a foot to the surface where their germination is induced by exposure? I skipped a line. Do the blades of a plow, which can reach more than a foot below the soil surface, bring some of these buried seeds to the surface where their germination is induced by exposure to sunlight? Okay, I got it. Emphasize the provisional nature of the findings. We hadn't found any. There was no, so no. Introduce the specific research topic. That's exactly what it did. Suggest the hypothetical impact of the studies analyzed. We hadn't gone into any analysis. Again, question order rule. We hadn't gone into any analysis. Indicate the level of disagreement about the methods explored in the passage. We were just being introduced. It was only lines 13 to 16. We were just being introduced. There was no disagreement about the methods. So B is the answer. Oh, most nearly means. Can't look, sorry. As used in line 15, induced, most nearly means. Let's have a look at line 15. Get rid of it completely. Start at the beginning. To the blades of a plow. I'm in the way. Which can reach more than a foot beneath the soil surface. Bring some of these buried seeds to the surface where the germination is. How about started? Started by exposure to soil? Yeah, started. Simple. Logical. Do you have another simple logical word? Began. Is that what you said? Began? So let's go. Started or began? I'm going to cover the word. We're looking for started or began. Lord? No. No. Established? Started, began? I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I'm going to keep it. Convinced? No. Stimulated? No. So established. Started, began. 46. Which choice supports the idea that seeds present in the fields plowed at night are exposed to some amount of light? I'm looking very quickly, line 15, line 13. So unfortunately, we can't use the question order rule because this starts on line 29. So unfortunately, we can't use it on this one. But let's have a look. Exposed to some amount of light. Line 29 to 33, more germination. More recently, Karl Harburg of Erlangen University in Germany reasoned that the farmers plowed their fields during the day. The buried weed seeds are briefly exposed to sunlight, going down to germination, as the soil is turned over, and that stimulates their germination. Is that what we're looking for, though? Seeds present in the fields plowed at night. We're not looking for the day, so no. Line 33. Between although and germination. Although the light exposure from plowing may be less than 1 millisecond, that can be enough to induce seed germination. This again is during the day. So no, we're looking for plowing at night, 40 to 44, all those seeds. Under these conditions, hundreds of millions of photons strike each square millimeter of ground each second. This illumination is below the threshold needed to stimulate. And this one is about plowing fields during the night. Under these conditions, under the conditions of plowing at night. So I like that one. We're going to keep that one. And then 45 to 49, Hartman and Ago. Hartman says that he was very skeptical when he first came up with this idea because he assumed that such a simple method of weed control as plowing at nighttime might be ineffective, or it would have been discovered long ago. Does that say plowed at night are exposed to some amount of light? No, that's actually one of the findings. So to get rid of that one, and the answer is C. Number 47. The passage suggests that if Seidel had planted wheat or corn in the 2 agricultural strips on Hartman's experiment, the percentage of the surface of each strip covered with weeds would likely have been. So I do remember, because I did underline this, no crops were planted in these pilot experiments. So there were no crops there. They were just saying this one is just dirt, and we're going to go through and plow during the day, and this one's just dirt, and we're going to plow at night. So if they had planted wheat or corn, the percentage of the surface of each strip covered with weeds would likely have been lower than the percentage, because if they had put wheat or corn in there, then there would have been less weeds because there's only so much surface area. So I do like that one. Higher than, no, there's only so much surface area. Nearly impossible? No, there would have been weeds there. Comparable to Hartman's original projection? There was no original projection because they were just doing an experiment. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? I'm going to have a look. What I'm looking for is to see if we can eliminate any. And we just got line 40 to 44. No lines there. And then line 58. So unfortunately, we can't eliminate any. But which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the following? We're just looking at what else was growing. Were there wheat or corn? So line 52 to 55, Hartman and Knight. Hartman tested this idea by plowing 2 agricultural strips near Germany. The farmer, Karl Seidel, cultivated 1 strip, repeated threefold at around midday, and the other strip at night. It doesn't say anything about what else was going on there, what else was planted. Line 55 to 57. And we're reading between no crops and weeds. No crops, I told you I remembered this one. No crops were planted in this pilot experiment to avoid possible competition with emerging weeds. There's our answer, but just to be sure, in case you don't believe me, line 57 to 58, the results dramatic. The results were dramatic. It doesn't say anything to answer it, so we have to get rid of that. And then line 58 to 61, more and weeds. More than 80% of the surface of the field plowed in daylight was covered by weeds, whereas only about, that's the research findings, was covered by weeds. It doesn't say what else was planted, and we've been looking for what else was planted. So, and our most nearly means. As used in line 58, I think we just read this, the results were dramatic. Dramatic most nearly means. Let's go to line 58. The results were and so they were impressed by the results, impressive. Dramatic is to take notice, so impressive or to take notice. So the results were impressive, or they were taking notice. As used in line 58, dramatic most nearly means theatrical. No, that's not how the word was used. That's how you may know the drama kids in school, but that is not, no. The results were sudden. No, that doesn't mean impressive or you don't take notice. No. Impressive means impressive. Emotional or taking notice? No. So we'll go with impressive. I love most nearly means. And now we only have 3 questions left and there are 3 on the table. So this is the first time we're going to the table. Now we have to know the reason why we're going to the table. So according to the table, which soil sample disturbed in darkness did the fewer numbers of seedlings emerge? So we're looking disturbed in darkness and fewest numbers of seedlings. Darkness and fewest numbers of seedlings, sorry. Darkness, total number of emerges in darkness. Fewest number is deciduous wood. Is it 0? Oh, I didn't get the answer though. And that's sample A. I'm not going to spend any more time on that one. As presented in the table, which sample produced the most seedlings when the soil was disturbed in light? So most seedlings in light. Here's our light side. We're looking for the most. There's 8. Oh, but there's 14. Muck field is sample I. Sample I. And finally, the data presented in the table most directly support which claim from the passage. This is going to be, remember, I have mentioned this to you before. Data in the passage always supports the theme. The data in the passage does not ever dispute the theme, go against the theme. The data in the passage always supports the theme. So all we're doing on this one is looking for our theme, which we most likely have it marked to some extent. So let's see. I'm going to go with our question order rule on this one though, because this is our very last question. And so technically it should come toward the end of the passage. If I were correct, then I could just cross out A, B, C, but let's just start here just for the sake of time, and thus and second, and this should support our theme. It's line 35 to 40, thus to second. Line 35 to 40, thus the germination of weed seeds would be minimized if farmers simply plow their fields during the night when the photo influence rate is below. Okay, so plowing at night per square meter per second. That's our theme. Weed growth is greater when fields are plowed during the day, exposing seedlight to sunlight and germination. It would be minimized if they simply plowed at night. So we're going to go with D. Just in case you're worried, lines 10 through 12, plant to germinate. Plant psychologists have shown that seeds buried more than about 1 centimeter below the soil surface do not receive enough light to germinate. It doesn't say anything about weed growth. Lines 8 through 10, ecologist to surface. Ecologists have shown that a farmer's field can have 5,000 or more weed seeds per square meter buried below the soil surface. Again, our theme is about when they are exposed to sunlight and how they're going to grow. So that doesn't go with it. And then lines 1 through 2, many weeds. Many millennia before the invention of herbicides, farmers simply plowed their fields to control weeds. Introductory sentence. Doesn't have any meat to it, so no statement there. So we can get rid of that one, and that one, and we have D. So that was it. That was our science with a table. So science with a table. Our major takeaways and the things to remember. Again, always reading for theme. Please always read for theme. Spend your time looking for research design and findings. Circle any dates. Look at how we are marking up the text as we're reading. We're not really having to go back to the reading too much. If we do, we're going back and reading a line or two. But we know why we're going back. We're not getting lost. We have a purpose and we know why we're going back. And then as we have in the past, when there is a figure or a table, we don't go and even look at it at all until we know why we're looking at it. And I hope you would agree with me. The questions were fairly simple, so it really wasn't worth spending a lot of time on this table at all. Because it was too easy to just go in and know exactly why we were visiting the table. So read for theme for all science, research design findings, circle dates, and that was easy. I hate to say it, it's SAT, but I feel like that was one that people are tired and fatigued and ready to be done, and you just showed your capacity to do really well on a science one. So I am happy as always to go through this with you. I'm proud of you. Thank you for sticking with me. We just got through the last of our first section